$50,000 cash or $1 million, a check for $1 million. What would you rather have? Well, I know what you're saying. I know what you're saying. You're saying, I would much rather have a check for $1 million than to have $50,000 in cash. And yet the reason this is such a great story, and I'll keep it short, is because in the book that I read about Don King, the great boxing promoter, he said that so oftentimes it happened that he would offer his fighters $50,000, like a briefcase. Yeah, that was it. He would always have a briefcase full of cash, and he'd have like $50,000 in a briefcase. Or he said that they could have a check for $1 million, and he asked them which that they would rather have. And they saw the money, and he said that most times they took the money. Now, it sounds ruthless. It is ruthless. I'm not trying to condone that. I'm not trying to say that that's right or good or anything like that. It's a story that stuck with me, and I think it points to some great things when it comes to marketing. So think about, there's some lessons here. You know, show a young fighter a briefcase that's just full of, small bills, overstuffed with cash, and all they have to do is just sign on the dotted line and they can take that with them, or they get a check for $1 million. And Don King said that time after time after time after time, they would much rather have the briefcase full of cash. Now, I've been thinking about that story for years. I think one of the reasons because they knew that a check for $1 million might not cash. So in their minds, better to take the money now and instead of trying to cash the check. So I can see that. But also, I think there's another story here. And it's a story of emotion. You know, so oftentimes we forget that as marketers, we are selling to people's emotions. Now, granted, they have to justify it intellectually and that kind of thing, but we make marketing decisions that are just too logical. We're not realizing that people buy for emotional reasons. In this case, with Don King, there's that briefcase. It's got $50,000 in small bills, and they took it. Most of the time, they took it. Rather than getting a check for $1 million. It's a great book. I think it's called Only in America. I think that's the name of the book, Only in America. It's a great book. I've read it a couple times now. Truly a great entrepreneurial story. And that's ruthless. That's very, very ruthless. You know, to cheat people out of their money the way that Don did. But he understood the emotional appeal, the emotional factor. And I think that's something that's missing a lot of times in look at this crazy dog here, bumping my camera. I think that is just something that's missing a lot of times when we think too logically about our offer. You know, we think, oh, people will never believe this, or this is way over the top, or, you know, we're just pushing it way too far, or whatever. We don't realize that from an emotional standpoint, what people want is largely irrational. You know, and I guess that's different for different marketplaces and stuff like that. But people buy with their emotions. Oftentimes, what they want is not very rational at all. So sell to people's emotions. Try to understand your prospective buyers from an emotional perspective. Realize that a lot of the reasons why they might buy whatever it is that you sell might have absolutely very little to do, I was going to say nothing, but very little to do with any kind of logic. You know, for instance, in my marketplace, I sell business opportunities, and there's a lot of people that just want to get rich overnight. You know, what they're really looking for is to win the lottery or something like that. You know, they're looking for something to get rich overnight, man. You know, and of course you can't promise them or that, you know, or anything like that. That would be illegal and immoral and all that. But just to understand that. Or a lot of other people, I've had a lot of clients over the years that have been older. And what they're really looking for is not the money. They want that sense of purpose that they used to have. They want that to get a little bit of youth back. And so that's what's really, really important to them. And knowing that, you can talk to them in ways that you couldn't if you didn't know stuff like that. So a lot of times people are never going to tell you what they really want, because either they don't know, or even if they did know, it would embarrass them or something like that. Or, but you have to know. You have to understand the emotions of your prospective buyers the way Don King understood the emotions of these fighters, offering them $50,000 in cash that they could take right then and there, and small bills, as I see it, the briefcase, when you open it, it just comes, like popping open with all this money inside. Think about it. It's kind of the emotions were so strong that they could not they couldn't say no. They were just so overcome with emotion. And rather than a check for $1 million that, knowing Don King, no offense, Don, but maybe they were concerned that the check wouldn't have cashed. I only thought about that years later. We have to understand the emotions of who we sell to. And that's a great story, because logically, who is going to choose $50,000 versus $1 million? Who's going to choose that? And it doesn't make any sense logically, but if you think about it from an emotional standpoint, and you start realizing that people buy for emotional reasons, you can start kind of thinking about stuff like that. So, hope you enjoyed the video. Drop me a line at heytj.com. That's HEYTJ.com. And thank you very much. Bye for now.